And we are here, Grandmaster Robert Hess with Grandmaster Aman Hambleton, covering the quarterfinals, second half, I should say, of the quarterfinals in the World Puzzle Battle Championships. Aman, it's going to be an exciting day. How ready are you for it?
Hey Robert, hey everybody. Yeah, I'm pretty excited to be here. I can say honestly, I have never commentated a puzzle battle anything, so I am super excited to be here. Can't wait to see how close of a matchup we have today.
Well, we saw some lopsided matchups yesterday between Ray Robson and Sam Sevian, as well as Hans Niemann taking out Hikaru Nakamura. So, an upset, if you will, by the seeds with Niemann beating Nakamura. But did either of those surprise you, Aman?
No, definitely not. I think what's interesting about the puzzle battle championships, you have so many grandmasters that are playing, but actually, if anyone is not a grandmaster, so we have Ladopoulos, we have a couple IMs in there. All these people are honestly like some of the favorites to win the entire event, in my opinion. So I think it's actually just a reflection that it's not just that classical rating and FIDE rating that is going to make you a favorite in this format, and we're seeing that proven by the results so far.
Absolutely. We saw Sam Sevian get blanked by Ray Robson 59-0. That is as lopsided as they come. And let's look at today's players, because we have four very accomplished puzzle battlers. We have the 4-5 matchup of Christopher Yu and Alireza Firouzja. Let's talk about Christopher Yu first, because, well, he is just 13 years old. He's an international master playing for the U.S. He's actually competing in a tournament over the board, not as we speak, because then he wouldn't be able to puzzle battle at the same time. But what do you make of that? That this youngster is a very talented classical player, and he's in the middle of a real tournament, and yet he's still playing in this championship.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. You'll often find the scheduling conflicts between a lot of these online big Chess.com events that are being hosted and the schedules that these top players and professional chess players keep. And he's just finding the time clearly to, I guess it's the morning, he's right before his round or something. He fits in a little puzzle battle, world championship match. That's pretty incredible. I like to see that dedication.
Yeah, I guess it keeps him sharp. And, well, his opponent, it looks sharply dressed in his photo here, but also is one of the sharpest minds in chess, because Alireza Firouzja, just 16 years old, had a silver medal performance at the World Rapid Championship that finished last week. And, of course, he was also a force in the Blitz. So Alireza Firouzja, 27-23 classical chess rating. But I do believe this is much more of a toss-up battle as we enter the World Puzzle Battle Championships.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things. First of all, it's interesting that all his accolades are basically 2019, because he's just been dominating recently, and obviously we know that that World Rapid Championship silver medal is pretty much a cap to an incredible 2019 for him. And then also this matchup between Firouzja and Christopher Yu, I think, is set to be super exciting, because these guys are like the 4th and 5th seeds. I don't think either of these guys, from what I've seen, is just regularly scoring 50s, which, I think of Hans Niemann, Ray Robson, Dmitry Ladopoulos, like those guys can crush those 50s. So I actually feel like this is going to be one of the closest matches of the whole championship.
Yeah, and let's remind everyone of the format, because, well, when you're talking about 50s and talking about the differential, we saw scores earlier, it's 10 rounds between the two players, 10 battles, and it's margin of victory. So if anyone here has played shuffleboard before, Aman, I know we talked about this before the show. You've only played once in your life, but you played with Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, so pretty highly rated company. And a player can earn no more than 10 points in any round during the match. So let's say someone goes all in and only scores a 25, and the other player scores a 45. That's still only 10 points awarded to the winning player. So if they're tied after 10 rounds, we'll see sudden death. And the prize fund for this, we're in the quarterfinals already, and, well, it's a pretty big prize fund. We see that for solving puzzles and sort of warm up for a tournament, if you're Christopher Yu, that he's playing over the board, and if you're Alireza, just hanging out solving puzzles, these guys getting ready to go, not bad at all.
No, not at all. That's a very nice prize fund for what is the first ever Puzzle Battle World Championship. So it's nice to get a little reward for these guys who are demonstrating how good they are at puzzle solving.
Yeah, and we are very close to getting underway here. And so, Aman, I'm making you do a prediction for us. Christopher Yu versus Alireza Firouzja. What is the final result?
Final result. So basically, with the scoring system, I actually, as I said, I think it's going to be the closest match. I'll say right off the bat, I don't think we're going to have a blowout result, no matter who wins. I haven't seen the most from Firouzja in terms of puzzle battles, whereas I feel like a lot of the other competitors, I've seen them do it on their own time. I've seen them compete. I've seen their names on the leaderboards. Whereas Firouzja, I think he's just Firouzja, right? He's just good at blitz, bullet. He's just quick thinker. He's extremely good at tactics. So I feel like I don't have a lot of info from his side. So I could definitely see myself being surprised by his performance today. With the information, I would probably say that Christopher is probably the favorite. But I think we're going to get a close match. And I feel like I just haven't seen enough from Firouzja to properly say. But I think probably Chris would be my favorite pick for today.
Okay, and I think they will actually trade off victories. Like we saw that Ray Robson went 59-0. He blanked his opponent. But I do think that both of these players will win certain battles, and we'll end up seeing who has the better differential. But the action should be lifting off between these two. In fact, we see it beginning now. And okay, it's we're in the first minute. We have some time to breathe, relax, see the type of positions that they have to solve. But what are your targets, Aman, when you see this? How many puzzles are you trying to score in the first minute, or is that not how you try to look at these challenges?
Yeah, I think basically it's I've sort of calibrated by watching the Puzzle Battle World Championship, because I may have told you something completely different a long time ago, and then after seeing like what type of insane scores these guys are able to hit in the first minute, first 2 minutes, I suddenly have to adjust. It's like, wait a minute, we can hit 25 puzzles in the first minute, which is ridiculous. And these guys are seemingly on that pace already. So I think the 25 at 2 minutes mark is a really good run to start off. So I'd be looking for that mark right off the bat.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see how different competitors take a different approach, because Ray Robson, for example, he is very consistent throughout. He's not rushing through. You don't see him blazing out to, say, 27 puzzles in the first minute like we've seen Daniel Naroditsky do. Of course, he was eliminated, but Naroditsky was one of those people, Hans Niemann as well, who can really score very highly. And one wrong by Alireza Firouzja. So first incorrect answer for him. He's been a little bit ahead against Christopher Yu, but when you get a puzzle wrong, then you start getting into the psychological elements, worrying that you're going to make another mistake, and then you have to take more time.
Yeah, and the one wrong I don't think is ever the end of the world. It's really that it takes you one step closer to being two wrong, and two wrong is that worst feeling. You start to doubt yourself. You start to take way more time because you know that one more wrong answer and your run is over. So you really start second guessing. So I think that second strike is really where it starts to hurt your performance.
Right, and we just saw Christopher Yu get one wrong. So Alireza Firouzja ahead. He's up by 4 puzzles. And that's the cool thing about this relative to the heats. In the heats, you have to focus on your opponent, but more so you just to focus on your total score. Here it's mano a mano, right? It's you versus the guy you're competing against here, and that's Firouzja versus Christopher Yu. And right now, 2 wrong for Christopher Yu, 6 behind. I think this is Firouzja's battle in the first round here.
Yeah, I was going to say not just that he's got 2 wrong, but also the pace. I mean, 35 with 30 seconds left. Definitely not one of his faster runs, I'm willing to say.
Right. And, well, Christopher Yu just getting warmed up here. He is playing the Charlotte Open over the board chess. Now Alireza Firouzja is 2 wrong. Oh, Christopher Yu unfortunately strikes out there. Right. And, he's going for a checkmate because the knight on e5 wanted to team up with that rook on b8, but to get to the h8 square. But unfortunately for him, didn't make that one work.
Yeah, and there we go. We see the 43 to 36. So he'll collect a nice little point differential there. That's probably not necessarily the best run for either of these guys, but I think it's the same as normal chess in the sense of warming up. Like, maybe these guys were warming up puzzle battle before the match, but still, that's the first one of the day in a serious competitive format. So some nerves and just getting used to it.
Absolutely. And why don't we take a look at the puzzles that they made mistakes on? Because we have this puzzle here first. And, well, when I look at this puzzle, I look at the white king on B1, but I also look at the black king on f7 and being in some trouble here. And the first move of the puzzle is rook takes h5, which is one of those desperate moves by white to launch an attack when your king on b1 looks dangerous. And so, Aman, why do you think a player, very strong player at that, gets a puzzle like this incorrect?
Well, when I look at this puzzle, there's two things that come to my mind. First of all, g takes h5 has got to be like just at least a consideration. And then you look at like maybe g6 and you're like, no, I mean, like, when is a puzzle just going to be taking material like that? Right. Then I actually look at queen a1 check, because that's a pretty common theme with knight takes c2. But then I realized that, I'm impressing nobody and I'm just losing material. And then after sort of ruling those out, I think I probably land on rook a6, because I know it probably has to do with that weak king on b1 and the open a file. And probably without a lot of calculation, I would go for the rook a6 and then, figure it out from there.
Yeah, it looks a little scary because you give a check on h7, but then you realize your king can simply run away, right? If you give me another check on e7, my king comes to d8, you're out of useful checks. That is all that she wrote. So that's a nice one, just going for the checkmate, not worrying about your king, but easy to understand why a player gets it wrong. Let's look at another position just to before we get to the next round, because these players are about to start here. And in this puzzle, rook b8 check was the first move. And after king h7, unfortunately, he went for the checkmate, Christopher, you did, with pawn to f5, hoping to land on g6 with a knight and then checkmate with the rook. But after a move like getting not getting a queen, because after f5, after f5 you take first, you don't get checkmated. And after pawn takes, then I can go ahead and get a queen. And I'm too quick. Your king is very vulnerable. You're not going to checkmate me in time with knight g6. I have too many checks to put on your king with rook a2 check, for example, and my queen will then come into the action along the first rank. So after king h7, the move is actually knight f7, saying I'm going to mate you on h8. And after g5, f5, still trying to mate you on h8. And after g6, f6.
Robert, these guys have no patience for your beautiful analysis. They're already back out of the gate.
Wow, well, they're going even more quickly than I anticipated. So I'm talking about a position that nobody can see. We'll save that one for later. And we have liftoff here. And okay, 15 right for both players with 2 minutes and 20 plus seconds remaining.
Yep. All right. It looks like what I can say is early on, both of these guys aren't dropping puzzles, around the 10 to 20 area. It seems like both of them are really consistent with those early puzzles.
Yeah, it's
21, 22 apiece. Nothing wrong so far.
And that's important, right? Not getting one wrong too early. I'm trying to calculate. It's funny. I'm trying to talk and calculate the positions that they're solving at the same time here. But that's how these things go, right?
I can only do one of those.
Yeah, exactly. Then I start going silent. I'm like, Aman, you talk. G4 check wins a rook. So I could see Christopher Yu's position there. And Firouzja has one incorrect answer. That's going to make him upset. But he did have one incorrect solution in the first round of this battle. So he was the first one to an incorrect answer. He's just at a quicker pace. Although this one, Christopher is keeping up with his esteemed competitor.
Yep. That bishop c5 there looking good for Christopher. And at this point, like, how do you value a miss when there's, let's say, less than a minute left on the clock? Would you rather have, 2 misses? We're not debating that you'd rather be Christopher here. But at some point it's kind of like a pawn in chess being down a pawn versus maybe having an extra minute on the clock. And oh my goodness, the tilt is kicking in for Firouzja as he gets 2 wrong in a row and strikes out. So Chris can really put up a big point differential in this match.
Right. And remember that the point differential caps out at 10. So there's no point. I mean, maybe for your own confidence of scoring like 50 in this one, just score 43, get to 43, get your 10-point victory here, because that's huge. He lost by 7 in the first one. If he gets 10 points here, then he takes the lead. And a 3-point lead is actually quite significant in this format.
Yeah, and I think we called it that this was going to be one of the closest matchups, and you were saying that these guys are absolutely going to be trading individual puzzle rush victories back and forth, and we're going to see that point differential kind of sway from either side. So I think we're getting exactly what we thought. This is going to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, for sure here. And Christopher Yu, it's over. He wins by 8, so he actually takes a 1-point lead here, Aman. And let's take a look at these positions that Alireza Firouzja went wrong in, because Christopher Yu didn't get a single one wrong, so there's nothing for us to look at there. And well, here we are. We have one of the positions up where the white king is in, looks like it's in some danger, but you have this beautiful pass pawn d7. So I don't remember what Alireza tried to do here.
He did queen g. Is it queen g3? So, was it?
Yeah. So queen g3 was the first move, and
okay,
so
right.
he went. King d2 looks pretty reasonable, but I don't remember what he did wrong. Did he go king d2 or not? I don't have that in front of here. But after queen f4 check, king c2. The point is that if you take my knight on e4, I am going to get a new queen. So it's actually this, for the problems that we typically see these players get wrong, this one is not overly difficult, right?
Yeah, it's more. I imagine he would have had to play king e2, right? It's just simply the only other move on the board. So I guess he played this one. Intuitively, it feels like you want to play king d2, king c2, like just out of dodge as quick as possible. So that's probably more of a he got the last one wrong maybe, and he just sort of fling that move out. So I'm not sure if he really thought too much about that.
I think I have a potential rationale here. This rook on f7 is pinned to the king on g8, but at first glance, you think you're cutting off the rook on d1 from the pawn on d7. So you think about rook takes d7, and only too late do you realize that that rook is actually pinned, and you can't go and steal that pawn. So that's why you would play a move like king e2, saying let's settle on a kind of draw with queen g2 check, king e3, queen g3 check sort of thing, and just like repeat moves. But then you realize, okay, king e2 actually works. The rook is pinned to the king, just as a reminder. So let's look at one more puzzle before we start the next battle, because that will begin in about a minute. So this puzzle here, in fact, how this one I don't understand getting incorrect, because bishop c5 check. It must have been rook takes g2. That is very tempting. But when you look at queens on the same line here, right, just draw an arrow between them, remove the piece in between with a check, and that scoops up a queen. So surprising miss on that one for Alireza Firouzja.
Not going to happen too much, Robert, I think, in this match. Firouzja definitely like that. This one right here, bishop c5 check, is one that we won't see him making a mistake on probably for the rest of the match. So
yeah, well, we do have the players ready for the next match, so we can get ourselves set for that. But wow, what a mistake. I think you're right, Aman, that Firouzja, he goes on tilt sometimes. So he gets one position wrong, he just loses his mind a little bit, and then gets the second one wrong. That really, for him, is an elementary tactic, just that bishop c5 check. So here we are, 1-1 early going. Oh my gosh, Firouzja got one wrong. I didn't even see it. Was it a mouse slip?
Oh man.
What happened?
I have to look at this.
What just happened?
I barely even saw it. It was just so fast.
It must have been a mouse slip, because there's no way the second puzzle overall. Wow. I don't know what to say. I'm out of words.
Yeah, no, I seriously didn't see it. It was just way too fast.
Well, Firouzja, he's now a little bit behind Christopher Yu, and now he has one incorrect as well. This could really turn the tables for Christopher Yu, because he was outscored by 7 in the first go around. Then he outscores others by 8. Now they're both getting, oh my gosh.
The same one. Did they get the same one wrong there?
No, they were off by 1. So they did not get the same puzzle wrong, but they are getting early puzzles wrong. And for Alireza, and what's your strategy now, Aman? Do you take your time and sort of say, I just cannot afford to give Christopher Yu a 10-point victory, so if I get a third one wrong, he for sure is going to get at least in the mid-30s. Or do you just...
Yeah, I agree. Just take your time. Like slow down. The 2 strikes is a good, I guess, measuring point to like maybe just take your time and not get blown out by that 10-point deficit.
Right. Just, oh man, it's not the place you want to be for Alireza, because now you're going to lose this battle. I feel like it's just only a matter of how much, and you're really praying that Christopher Yu gets one wrong, because then when Christopher Yu gets the second wrong, there's still a minute left. He starts taking his time, getting in his own head while calculating the position. So only 1 point behind right now. Oh, and there's a second mistake by Christopher Yu.
He misses b3 there. Got to just push the pawn, pin the bishop, and now they both they're on the exact same score with 2 wrong. So they're on the exact same puzzles.
Okay, well, now we can see this happen firsthand. And
Wow.
a queen d4 check. There we go. You win the rook on e1 for Christopher Yu. Nice find. And okay, they're on the same exact puzzle. So
I know. And they both played the exact same move.
All right. So what's...
Because the rook e1 and queen d5, rook e8, king f7, king f7, rook e7. Why is that?
Wow. I guess... Yeah, what?
Bishop e5. Bishop e5.
That's a really nice solution. So we'll pull that one up first here. We have that ready to show everybody that, that's not a mistake that you want to make for either. But the good news for Alireza after that really early blunder is now it's a tie score, right? They tied in that one, so he still is just down 1 point. But let's look at this one. You're absolutely right, Aman, that after rook to e1, the problem is bishop to e5, because the whole point that Aman was pointing out correctly was that the queen d5, there's rook takes e8 with a check to the king. So with the check on g8, that means the king would want to go to f7 to attack the rook. But you throw in another intermezzo with rook e7 check, and after king f8, only then do you take the queen. So that would be winning. Yeah. But Aman said, hey, let's just cut off this attack here with the move like bishop e5. And now your winning attempt of pinning a piece with this rook hanging doesn't work, as you have a check to this king.
Such a tricky puzzle, Robert, because rook e1 is such a regular theme. And then even still having the bishop on e5, rook on e6, f4, you might think wins a piece. So many ways to get tricked by that one.
Yep. And that's just, it's one of those ones that the right idea, but it's all about the execution. And what the correct execution is rook to b8, same exact plan. And the whole point, again, if you take on d5, I take on e8 first. And that's exactly how you solve this puzzle, right? Queen d5, rook e8. And it's funny, Aman, the king f7 doesn't work either because rook takes e8. Your queen is still pinned. So if you take the rook with your king, you lose your queen. If you take on d5, same exact thing, rook e7 check.
That's like the hardest 35th puzzle or whatever I've seen.
It's just so tricky because the right way to go, or the right plan, I should say. You just have to get it accurately. So let's go to the next puzzle, the one that Christopher, you went incorrect on. And you said this one is actually relatively simple for him. He should have just pushed his pawn. And, well, that is the case. When you have a passed pawn in a puzzle, especially in one where you're not getting mated, right? There's only 2 bishops on the board. Just push them, baby.
Yeah.
Handle your inner Yaz and go here, pawn to b3. Because after bishop takes b3, rook a3 simply wins that bishop.
Yeah. This one is one that he probably just overthought. He ended up playing rook a5 instead of b3, so just overthought it, I think.
Yeah, and as you see the engine bar, all of a sudden it's saying white is firmly equalizing, and you need the rook to help you promote the pawn, right? The rook on a1 helps the b1 square, so you're just straight up pushing down the board. So let's check out one more before we get to their battles, because they're about to get underway. And we see in this position, the rook on f7 is hanging. So I imagine that king takes f7 is the tempting move, but the problem with king takes f7 is your king is out in the open. At least that's what I imagine the problem to be. So some kind of rook to d7 check. And after rook d7 check, you need to have your king protecting your bishop. And if you come to the last rank, there's a rook d8 check, scooping up the bishop on a8. So instead, the first one was queen e1 check. And after king h2, bishop e5 check, hitting this rook on d6, this rook on f7 as well. And then your king is not actually in any danger. So bishop takes d6.
I think what happened though is everyone played bishop takes e4. That's why they got it wrong. So they all played bishop takes e4 here. That was the big, because that looks to me like the solution, honestly. So that's why both of these guys got the exact same puzzle wrong.
I guess rook to d1 saves the day after bishop takes e4, covering the h1 square.
That's another tricky one, man.
Man, this is too much. Let's get back to the players because they're about to take off again for battle. But yeah, these ones are, it's almost not fair, right?
Yeah, I know. What the hell? These are really tough. Very tricky ones.
All right. Well, we have the 4th battle underway. And what do you do differently if you're these players, Aman? What do you change about your approach?
I feel like both of these guys right now are going, I want to say a little bit quickly, specifically Firouzja. I would take a little more time because it sort of looks like both of them are capable of striking out so far, we've seen. And that means that as long as you sort of stay in this match it may benefit you in the long run. Like, just stay in there collecting points. It's more likely, it seems, that these guys strike out 3 times than hit 50, at least so far.
Yeah, I that seems to be the case. And well, right now they're off to a pretty good start with, about 19-18 lead for Firouzja. And look at these end games. End games are tricky ones. Remember, kick. Oh, look at that one. That's a long one. And here, Christopher Yu is on that same puzzle that Firouzja just solved. So he's one step behind here. Oh, I love that one by Firouzja. Just 97 double check, picking up the rook.
And I think it's once again the case that although these guys aren't on record pace or anything, we don't see early mistakes from these guys. They're not dropping puzzles in general before, move number 20 or something. Like Firouzja got the second one wrong, probably a mouse slip we saw earlier, but otherwise I've been really impressed with the consistency early on.
Absolutely. And well, look at this puzzle for Firouzja. You figured it out, just checking in the corner. It's funny because it's very distracting for me, at least, seeing 2 people solving things at the same time, because I'm looking at one puzzle, but then my mind is shifting to the other when I see moves happening. But Christopher Yu is 3 puzzles behind right now.
Yep. Both of them, no strikes. And I think that at some point when you've only got a minute left and you're around 30, and you've got nothing, you got no strikes yet, you maybe should start to pick up the pace a little bit, because you don't want to be sitting there with a perfect score and no strikes. It means that you should have probably just made some attempts.
Right. And Christopher Yu has 1 incorrect puzzle that with the deficit and 1 incorrect to Alireza's no mistakes, that's going to be a problem, it feels like. But Christopher Yu, he's shown that he can catch up before, and he'll need to do so in the last 37 seconds.
Yeah, there's really good run here for Firouzja in terms of just a clean go of it, and he's showing how much it's based on like momentum and just like whether you're on a run or not. The last time we saw him get the second puzzle wrong and then strike out altogether, and now he's got 40 with nothing wrong. So it's a really big turnaround here.
Wow, that was a really nice puzzle, the one he just solved. I'm actually going to make sure I keep that in mind and pull that one up. I care less about the ones he got wrong and then the one he just got right, because that was a tough puzzle and he took his time and solved it. So right now, second wrong for Christopher Yu. And that is a 4-point victory for Alireza Firouzja. So he regains the lead. He's up now 11-8. But let's look at that puzzle he actually got right instead of ones that they got wrong. Let's focus on the positives here. And the first move of this puzzle was white playing rook to e2, so it's black's move. And when you look at a position like this, you're like, wait, what the heck? That king on h1 looks really safe. And we have even material. And Alireza found the first move, queen f3 check, and then king g1. He's like, wait, what next? That queen on g4 is protected. The whole point was I wanted you to take me on f3, so I take back with my pawn, and then my rook opens up an attack on your knight on e3. So he sat. He was like, okay, let me get this. Spent a couple seconds and went h5, saying the queen needs to protect the rook on e2, forces a queen exchange. But after the pawn takes, once again, the rook is attacking the knight on e3. The only way to keep protected is rook to e1. Then f2 comes, and that's a check. And even if your king was on h1 to start with, you're losing the knight on e3 regardless. So a really nice puzzle, and he took his time to solve it.
Yeah, and night and day from the last rush. It felt like Firouzja didn't slow down, honestly. So he's not taking my advice of slowing down. Instead, he's like, well, I'll just go just as fast, but not get anything wrong this time. How about that?
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're going to slow down. We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to get some more water. But when we return, the quarterfinals of the World Puzzle Battle Championship continue. And we are back here with the 2020 Puzzle Battle World Championship, the first of its kind. And right now we have a 3-point lead for Alireza Firouzja, 11-8 in differential, thanks to his round 4-point difference in showing here. So, Aman, Alireza is taking the lead. Do you think that he now is the favorite?
I think that this is going to be, honestly, could be just decided in the 10th individual puzzle battle. I feel like this differential between them is probably not going to exceed 10 points either way. And this is just going to be an insanely close match where we're in for a treat, I think.
Well, Alireza was in for the opposite of a treat, a surprise there. He didn't, I guess, realize that the puzzle was there, or he was trying to look for an endgame win rather than a checkmate in one. But either way, Alireza being very quick to catch up here. And, well, I mean, he is super speedy.
Well, he might have been in the chat, Robert. Maybe he was busy chatting to the people.
Yeah, he has been in the chat. He's made his presence felt, but he's also made his presence felt on the board here in this puzzle battle. So I agree with you. I think it will come down to the 10th and final frame, just like many bowling matches. And he's keeping pace despite the slow start in this round here. And I mean, the thing that's getting me, Aman, is the tilt factor, right? We've seen Alireza score pretty well, but not overwhelmingly well. And there he made one mistake, shook his head. He's frustrated. And these are the type of battles he can't afford to crash and burn on. He needs to get his act together, just say, I made one puzzle wrong. It happens. Who cares? Oh, two wrong now. And he's really mad. You saw that? He's just like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah, no, the tilt factor, I think from the competitors in terms of Alireza is I think the worst we've seen. And Chris seems to just be, a little bit slower overall. And so when it works for Firouzja, when he's on pace, we saw that last one, it was like 42, 43 with none wrong. He can go on those runs, but at the same time, he's so prone to the 1, 2, 3, like in a row, puzzles wrong, and then he's just out, not collecting any points. So he's got to be really careful for the rest of this run.
Yep, and he's down 2 with 2 X's, and Christopher Yu has no mistakes thus far, and it's just dangerous territory to be in. He thankfully has a 3-point lead thus far, but the gap is clearly closed. He cannot afford to get one more wrong here. So I think if I'm Alireza, I'm taking my time, but also I think you have to take some risks. Can't afford to go too slowly and have Christopher Yu, rack up a big score.
Yeah, no, he's doing a decent job keeping pace. We can see they're actually on the same puzzles because Alireza has 2 incorrect. And while he may have normally done these way faster, we see how important the strikes are, because he suddenly has to double check, triple check everything where he would normally trust his instincts.
Exactly. And actually the one he's on, he's doing that just now, but it's bishop E8 check and then B4 check. In fact, he solves it after Christopher Yu had already solved it. And now this one, it's he found that one. Okay, so he's playing catch up. He's down by 4. I think This is pretty much as good of a run as he could expect, having made 2 mistakes quite early on. But 5, this is going to be down to the wire if he can catch him. 3, now it's back to 4. Get one more right? No, it's a 4-point win for Christopher Yu. He takes a 1-game lead. And just to remind everybody of what's coming up after this, we will have the Speed Chess Championship match between Hikaru Nakamura and Jan Nepomniachtchi. So everyone should stay tuned after this battle is over between Christopher Yu and Alireza Firouzja. But we're in the midst of a battle. We're in the heat of the moment. We have seen incorrect puzzles solved by these players. So let's pull one of these up right now. And in this position, after rook to d8, I don't remember what Alireza played, but I assume he went pawn to d7 because that feels like the most obvious move of pushing your pawn down the board. But in fact, rook c8 is the solution. And after rook takes, knight takes, the whole point is the king can't approach via f8 and e7 because the knight has the e7 square under control. So king f8 simply runs into d7, I queen next with a checkmate. And after knight c8, king h7, well, now d7, d8 equals queen. I queen too quickly. I always have queen d3 check and come back to protect the b1 square. So unfortunately, the move pawn to d7 doesn't pan out the same way because after b3, rook c, not b3.
Just king to e7, I think.
Oh my gosh, the king just journeys here. of course. I was thinking like, oh, I give up my rook, but that still doesn't work because if I play b3, rook c8, b2, takes, king here, there's rook h8 check, and then I get the same queen.
Well, he probably calculated that, right? And usually pushing the pawn is what you do to like anchor the c8 square. It's more of a natural instinct to push first rather than go rook c8. So, you know, for an early puzzle like that, it actually is kind of a tricky one.
It really is, right? You know, king f8, so easy to miss that move because you're looking at pawn pushes for both sides. But as you pointed out, after rook c8, king to e7, and black is the one who can claim an advantage. I have the square under control. Your knight is stuck protecting the pawn on d7. And, well, I'm just a couple squares away from promoting. But we are, you know, these players make these little mistakes. They end up, you know, really hurting their chances. And Alireza Firouzja is now down 1 point as we see the players getting ready. Christopher Yu, head in his hands.
We've seen Firouzja with his head in his hands, but it's usually from tilt. I think he was actually just concentrating there, was Christopher.
I hope he's feeling fine. I hope he's ready because he only has 5 rounds remaining here. He's halfway through. He's up 1 point. But so far, so good on your word, Aman. It is the closest battle we've seen by far.
Yeah. No, this is delivering. Both of these guys have struck out 3 times and then come back in the very next rush. They do a 43, 44 in a row, nothing wrong. So we can see they're completely capable of polar opposite results. And that's why I think this is truly going to be decided probably in the 10th battle.
I'm with you there, partner. And right now, Firouzja out to a little bit of a head start. He's ahead of Christopher Yu. He momentarily was stuck on that puzzle, and unlike some of the other rounds, he was able to just take a breath and get it correct. So he's up 2 in the early going. I'm trying to keep an eye on his board on the right-hand side, but he's solving them so quickly that I don't even have a chance to see the position before he solves it.
Firouzja is going so fast right now. And like I say, I mean, you live by the sword, die by the sword, right, Robert? I mean, he's so quick, but at the same time, this is the reason why he sometimes gets those early 3 strikes.
Yes, he's in fact had the second puzzle in one of the rounds incorrect, which is unheard of in this Puzzle Battle Championship. But he really is like almost hurting my head at this point by how quickly he's solving these puzzles. Because as soon as I look and I'm about to say something about it, he's already solved it.
Yeah, it's insane. Like Firouzja just has the capability to really hit like a clean 45 with nothing wrong, and you're so impressed. And then he can also strike out with 3 puzzles. So. It's really just how much either one of those things happens in this match.
Well, speaking of striking out, Christopher Yu has 1 incorrect solution thus far, and that gives Alireza the confidence he needs. He's already up 4 in this match, or well, he's even up 3.5 because of the way they're solving. But 1 incorrect answer from Christopher Yu, though. On Christopher's part, he doesn't seem to go on tilt. He seems to be quite composed throughout this battle.
Oh, mouse slip there. That's an unfortunate one. He just slipped bishop d5 and trying to take the knight on e4. So there you go. That's a mouse slip right back at you from Christopher's side.
Well, that's a commentator's curse, right? I was just saying how composed he was, and he still does seem composed, but that is an unfortunate error because it's not a solution error as like, well, I don't know what it is. It's just unfortunately dropping the piece in the wrong square, and I hate when that happens. It really frustrates me to no end.
Yeah, and that puts him at 2 strikes. You know, it's slowing down the rest of his calculation, double, triple checking everything. I think that the thing is, like, when you have 41, 42, the way Firouzja does, in my opinion, it's worth it to really take some risks and try a few with your instincts. Like, just go for it because you don't want to sit there with a perfect score and no strikes. You may as well use them up as you're getting close to the end there.
And he did use up 1 of those strikes, and Christopher Yu is still at 2 strikes, but now he's down by 4, and there's 10 seconds remaining. So I wonder if the lead will be cut here or if it'll grow. And there's a 5-point lead, and Firouzja's still going.
Yep.
Make that still 5. Okay, Christopher.
Christopher got one at the end. That was clutch.
That is huge, right? You cannot afford to, in such a close match, every single point counts. And I'm bringing up the puzzle that Christopher Yu made that mouse slip in because that was actually pretty sad to see. As he had the correct answer, he just dropped the piece short. And in this position, he saw queen takes e4 check. After knight takes e4, he played bishop b7, pinning this knight on the long diagonal. You have to be happy about that. And after king to g1, he dropped his piece on d5.
Yeah. We know where he was going with that.
Oh, we've all been there. But this is why I was saying when I was asked the question of kind of what skill is most important in these Puzzle Battle Championships, I was saying mouse speed is essential. and dropping your bishop on d5 when you've already solved the puzzle, that's so frustrating. And Alireza Firouzja, on the other hand, he's such an amazing bullet player that he's able to click through these positions once he solved them at the quickest possible pace.
Yeah, he got an insane number correct there in a row with no strikes. So again, these guys are so good at doing that. And after that mouse slip, I was just really impressed by Christopher's composure. And you hinted at it earlier. You called it a commentator's curse, but I think it actually further proved your point. He mouse slipped, and then he maintained that composure. And look at that, he scores a 42 on what we call a subpar run with a mouse slip riddled in there as well. And I think that's a pretty good recovery.
Yeah, it was one of his best runs of the day. And before I forget some more, let's bring up the daily question, because we always have a question of the day here in Chess.com events. So today's question that you can get involved on Twitter with the hashtag Puzzle Battle is, which professional athlete do you think would dominate a puzzle battle if they practice? And I have no answer for this question, Aman, because, well, I don't really know that many professional athletes who also are skilled in chess. But I think the question more so is, with skill sets that professional athletes have, if they practiced at puzzle battle specifically, could any of them dominate? I don't know. What do you...
Very tough question. That's why it's the daily question, so everyone else can answer. But in my opinion, if I'm going professional athlete, I'm taking that into the esports category and saying that probably, one of these professional gamers with the insane reaction speeds that they have might excel at puzzle battles. So I'm thinking like professional CSGO players, League of Legends players, some of the guys with like the best reaction times out there. You give them these puzzles and the time constraints and how quickly the positions appear and how quick you have to be with the mouse. That's going to be my answer, because that's a tough question.
Yeah, it's funny because what I was thinking was something like Steph Curry, who can just like launch threes at the quickest possible way, and maybe like a Usain Bolt, because you're thinking of speed, right? When you think of speed, you think of Usain Bolt, Michael Phelps types. But I don't have a legitimate answer. I'm just speculating, as we all are, I guess, with that question. But yeah, I'm sure we've had some funny answers throughout the throughout the day. But we're off. Early lead for Firouzja. He's consistently been out to a lead. I think we've...
Oh my goodness, what a blunder though.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to open that one up.
It's almost that classic England gambit trick where you get the queen on b2, and if white plays queen c3, then it's just like a really bad move. And in that position is sort of tricky. Usually queen c3 is there, but there was bishop d4 in the position. So he just chose the wrong way to defend that diagonal. And again, an early puzzle wrong for Firouzja, but it doesn't look like it's slowing him down.
It clearly has not slowed him down throughout this battle. But Christopher Yu, credit to him. He's keeping up with Firouzja here because he's only one behind. And what's the trade-off you would make? One incorrect puzzle is worth how many to you?
Yeah, I was trying to make that distinction earlier. And I think early on, there's no question that you'd rather have, let's say, as long as it's within 5, I think you don't want that early strike. And I'm speaking definitely within the first minute. And then I think the second strike is probably the most valuable one that I would take. I don't think even a lead is more valuable than that second strike. So yeah, I do think the second one is really where it comes into play. First strike is not too much of a problem.
Okay, fair enough. And well, he has a second strike on him right now.
See, this is where it hurts you. He is going to slow down significantly, and if he doesn't, hey, he might just like do all of them correctly, and that's super impressive. But at the same time, this could be him exiting really early if he gets another one wrong here.
Yeah, that's.
It's been the storyline today, Robert. It's just, will he like get them all correct and at an insane speed, or is he going to strike out? And we see him slowing down. Christopher Yu taking the lead, jumping ahead by one puzzle here, as Firouzja just has to calculate a little slower.
Yep, and Firouzja now going down 1 in this battle, and he is up 3 in the overall scoring, but in this frame, let's call it, he is now down 2, and he has 2 strikes, and one more. He knows that gives Christopher Yu the chance to catch up. So let's see here.
What is this puzzle? I was going to say c6, and then this one is tough. Queen e8. Oh my God, that's an impressive one.
And he found it. Firouzja found it. Christopher Yu made his first mistake in there, but they both solved that one correctly. Okay, so let's see. There is
8 seconds left. You got to, Chris has the right idea. You got to just throw some guesses out there. 4 seconds, just make an attempt. Oh, he got that one.
That was clutch.
Oof.
That was super duper clutch. And Christopher Yu ends up 2 ahead of Alireza Firouzja in that frame, making the score a 1-point difference. And just to remind everybody that after the SEC match that we talked about just a moment ago, we have another quarterfinal matchup in the Puzzle Battle World Championship. This one between Dimitrios Ladopoulos and Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. That's Gymnast 9-8 versus Leon Beast at 12:30 p.m. Pacific time. That is 3:30 p.m. Eastern. I can't wait for that one because I don't, normally I would say MVL is the favorite in any time control he plays in, but when you're playing Gymnast 9-8, not so fast.
No, I love those matchups where the stronger chess player is not necessarily the favorite. It's like the perfect David Goliath underdog matchup.
Yeah, it's you don't really call MVL an underdog very often unless he's playing against Magnus Carlsen. But here he is the underdog against a very talented puzzle solver, someone who is quite the experience as he goes at it on the Chess.com server all the time. And for Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, he's going to rely on his super GM intuition, but without the history that Gymnast 9-8 does, it's going to be a tough one for him. And well, Aman, speaking of tough ones, this one we saw that Firouzja made the mistake in. You're absolutely right that oftentimes, a move like Queen to C3, keeping your rook on A1 protected is the way to go. But unfortunately, if we do a quick material count, this would have actually helped Alireza get this correct because Black is actually up a pawn, a clear pawn. So if Black sacrificed a minor piece to get here, then Queen C3 would be a good move, saying let's transition to an endgame where I'm up a minor piece. But because we're not up any material, in fact, we're down a pawn, the move bishop to D4, regardless of if we're up material or not, that simply traps the queen on B2.
Yep, and you also have to think this is an early puzzle too, right? It's within the first 10, let's say, and usually these are like one move wins. And Queen C3 just doesn't have that punch to it.
Right. It's maybe you save that up for your bullet games against Daniel Naroditsky, but not for the Puzzle Battle World Championship when all's on the line here, and you have to find a tactical shot rather than a trade of pieces. So Bishop to D4 says, well, your queen has 0 safe squares, as we just highlight them all, right? You can't go anywhere. The knight covers A3. The whole B file is under white's control. So your best option is queen takes A1. After bishop takes A1, white is simply up a queen for rook and pawn with a winning advantage. So
yeah,
sad puzzle to get wrong for Alireza. I mean, of course, he's more than strong enough to get this right. It's just when you have to go on intuition in the early going to rack up as many puzzles as possible. You make silly mistakes like this. But Christopher Yu, now within a point of Alireza Firouzja, man, 1 point difference, Aman. I don't know who's going to win this. It's going to come down to the 10th and final one, but neither of these players capable of pulling away from the other.
Yeah, I have no idea. As we've seen time and time again, it has gone back and forth. One player takes the lead, and we've never actually seen them really extend that lead since the first 2 rushes, I think. Like, it's always been back and forth. It's just crazy. When one player, we saw them both with that 35 score in the 3rd rush. They both got 35, one guy never pulls too far ahead of the other. So this is peak excitement.
Absolutely. +7 for Firouzja, +6 for Christopher Yu to start this thing off here. And now they've been within striking distance every single time. So right now we see that Firouzja again out to a lead, 2 puzzle lead. And Christopher Yu, he does this. He gives his opponent the early lead. He's solving as quickly as he can, but Firouzja is a little bit faster, and he gets one wrong. And he looks up disgusted. He's just like, how could I do this? Again, it's been a theme of the day.
Oof. And Christopher, with a little extra time spent, Queen E7, Queen takes F8, gets that same puzzle correct. And once again, you have that balance of a strike versus maybe like a 3-4 puzzle lead early on. How valuable is that? We'll have to see, because Chris is staying with that calm approach early on. And to his credit, let's not forget, he makes up for those maybe being a little slower later. He does catch up.
He does, and I saw the mistake that Alireza just made to get his 2nd strike. That is not a good one, because he, of course, knows the solution and he knew the plan, just the wrong move order, and that's going to cost him. And once again, he has 2 strikes with a minute 20 left.
He's got to play E5 here. I think it's E5 and Rook C8 mate. Is that right? Yeah.
Nice. Nice find, Aman. And
Well,
it looks like
he's got to find that with 2 strikes, Robert. That's way harder for this guy.
and Christopher Yu solved that one instantly.
Well,
So not only
I think he might have seen it. That's so impressive. Man, Christopher. And see, look at this. He's catching up.
Yep.
He's catching up. The 36. So you have to give a lot of credit, Christopher. He's a little slower out of the gate, but those trickier puzzles, as it ramps up 30s to 40s, 40s plus, he does catch up to Firouzja's early speed.
Yep, and they're on the same puzzle. I mean, this is getting confusing here. So I'm going to queen h4, queen h2. There it is. The d4, throwing that move in first. That is not an easy move to play at the start of that position.
Nuts.
Oh, look at that. Sacking the queen and rook h3 check. Oh, Firouzja's out. Firouzja is out. Oh, no. Alireza strikes out. And Christopher Yu, 0 incorrect answers. He's at 44, and he's still going here. Look at that. He finds this one, too. Oh, he takes the lead. And right now it's a 4-point lead. Oh, he got one wrong. So let's see if he can increase it.
13 seconds, though. I agree. Just throw some moves out there. Yeah, that's okay. 7 seconds. Just get some attempts in. 3, 2, 1. Give it a try. You may as well give it a try.
Yep.
Oh, man.
And third strike. So he ends up 4 points now. I've lined up these positions that Alireza, unfortunately for him, made mistakes in, because this one I think is a devious position, Aman, because rook e4 check was played, and that
it's so tricky.
Was solved correctly in that sense. And rook e7 check, of course, is the tempting move because you're actually winning the black queen. But then you do a material count and you say, whoa, whoa, whoa. 1 rook, 2 rook, a bishop here. So after check, say king c8, take on c7, king c7, black actually has a wealth of material. And I think there likely is going to be a draw with queen e7 to b4 because the king has to go to b6 and we just make a repetition, but no more than a draw. So it's tempting to win a queen, but how do you stop yourself from doing that, Aman?
Yeah, I think the reason that this puzzle is so tricky is because a lot of the times when you're doing Puzzle Rush, you're trying to be as quick as possible. So what you're going to do is you're going to focus on the important parts of the board, the important pieces. So I think your vision circle sort of centers around rook e4, the king, and basically everything right in the center of the board. So you may just forget that there's a bishop sitting down there on g1. You may just not take into account that, hey, you don't have a piece on h1 or a1, that you don't have this extra material lying around. And you probably just didn't take stock fully of all the pieces that were either on the board or not on the board in this case.
Yeah, and queen e7 check is the right answer. And Christopher, you found that because king has to go to c8. You take a rook off the board, and this king has to go back to d7. I mean, you go queen to d8, but after rook to e8, I'm simply winning your queen. And now I've stolen one of your rooks off the board. So if we do get into a position, say after a king c7 in something like this, well, now white has a queen for rook and bishop, and that is a winning advantage for white rather than 2 rooks and a bishop, which force white to settle for a draw. So understandable mistake when rook e7 check picks up a queen, but these are the type of positions that he's clearly been getting wrong that Christopher Yu has not. So unfortunately for Alireza. And let's look at the overall scoreboard here just to see on the big screen how a frame by frame result. An 8-point lead after 1 for Firouzja, then 7-point lead, I can't count. Then 6 back there for Chris Yu, and then they've been duking it out ever since. So
neck and neck. And just look at those recent scores too, from Russia's 5 to 8. You really got to say these guys have stepped it up. We've been seeing just consistent 40s across the board, and Firouzja's 40s are all his recent scores are pretty much come with 3 strikes. So just imagine he's not getting those wrong. He can put up 50s.
Yeah, he can for sure. And let's see him do it the rest of the way, because right now he needs one of those big scores. Christopher Yu is, as you just pointed out, performing extremely well these last 4 frames, 44, 42, 44, 45, consistently in that low to mid 40 range. And for Alireza Firouzja, he can't afford to get these strikes and then try to outscore Christopher Yu when Christopher Yu is performing so admirably well. So unfortunately for Alireza, he has his hands full with the youngster.
Yeah, he does. And it's not often you get to call someone else a youngster when Alireza is competing.
That is also very true. But Christopher Yu, 13 years old, international master, and a problem composer. He actually creates problems himself. So that's a really cool tidbit about him, is it's not just solving puzzles, but actually creating them, which is pretty fascinating.
That's impressive. I do that as well, just not in Puzzle Rush.
You just create life obstacles for yourself. Oh, and Alireza. Oh my, he's really
early
just
puzzles. He is really, really upset with himself after that.
He just can't believe it at this point. He's like, I've tried to change my attitude. It's a whole new puzzle set, and yet I'm still getting the early ones wrong. Not good for Alireza. But okay, Alireza now double checking things because he doesn't want to get a second strike. Early 21-21. They're off to a really good pace with over 2 minutes remaining, and they're in there. Oh my gosh. Nope. Can't afford that. And Alireza just laughs. He just can't believe it at this point.
Yeah, the 2 strikes, like you just can't keep doing that to yourself, because the third one, everything changes. Suddenly you play a lot slower. The calculations, the second guessing, everything we've talked about comes back into play, and you just can't do that to yourself every single time. It's not, you're not going to win with that kind of pressure on you all the time.
Yep, and now he's down, 2 puzzles. And they're actually solving the same puzzle, despite the fact that Christopher Yu has the higher score, because, 2 incorrect ones have put Alireza Firouzja in a tough spot.
Yep.
He's still, though, he's doing well, but just when you have 2 strikes with a minute plus, you're just always living on the edge here. And Christopher Yu doesn't have to have the same concerns, as he, has no wrong answers.
Yeah, no wrong answers, which means you have strikes to give. And with less than a minute now, even if you come close to like 1, 2, 3 striking out, by the time that happens, most of the clock is going to be used up anyway at this point.
Yep. And okay, if you are Firouzja, what territory do you have? What deficit in the? And 1 wrong for Christopher Yu, but what deficit do you have to have into the last frame to have a chance? How many points?
Wow, 2 wrong in a row there for Christopher.
3 wrong in a row.
Oh, man.
Oh, my gosh. This just turned around so quickly because Christopher Yu had this match in the bag because he's up 3 on Firouzja, and Firouzja's down 4 coming into this, but Alireza needs to solve this one. What is he doing?
Where's Firouzja? Did he think he struck out 3 times or something?
What's he doing?
He's in the chat. He says his Google got closed.
Oh, no.
He's just sitting here, and we're just painfully watching his time tick down.
No.
He said his Google closed, his tab closed.
No.
I mean, that's a different kind of tilt. That's that's the biggest third strike I've ever seen.
Yeah, because it doesn't actually go on the scoreboard, but it goes in his head, and we have to take that into account on the scoreboard now. So, that's less than ideal, to say the least. And I mean, I don't even know what to make of this. It's now a 7-point lead for Christopher Yu, and that was the difference in the first frame when Alireza won that battle 43-36. And honestly, Firouzja had the opportunity to cut the deficit because 3 in a row incorrect for Chris Yu. Let's look at some of these puzzles that Chris Yu actually got wrong here. We have one up on this. We have one up on the screen. Give me a sec as I pull this up. And here we see that after bishop takes b2, the king on g8 looks like it's in harm's way. But what did Chris play here? What did he do?
I couldn't remember. He actually did this one too fast. I was looking at Firouzja's screen at the time because I was like, why is this guy not solving the other puzzle? No, I didn't see what he played here.
Okay, well, it actually is a very tricky position, so I have sympathy with him. I understand why he made a mistake. If he did, queen d5, says, let me unleash a big attack on this king. And if you go king to the corner, I'm just going to go ahead and, I believe, give you a check on the e5 square, and your king is still in harm's way. But also, after knight f6, it looks like, well, I'm just attacking your queen and kicking it off the diagonal. But This is why this one is so hard. You throw in a knight g5 check, and after you give up your queen, you throw in the intermezzo, rook takes e8 with check. The king comes to g7, then you steal the queen and end up a full rook.
That's a nice one. And also remembering that the knight on g5 covers king f7, which you may think in your head, I take on e8, the guy goes king f7, and it's not quite working, but that knight covers it. And yeah, nice right. Quick little tactic there.
Right. King can't get to f7. Sadly, the knight covers it. And well, understandable mistake there, but we have one final battle left, a 7-point lead for Christopher Yu. I mean, this has to be over, right? No chance for Alireza?
Based on what we've seen from Christopher so far, he is not 3-striking out in general before 40, let's say. And so Alireza would have to put up his best score. He's capable of it, though. I just want to go out and say that he has put up like 45 straight today or something very close to that with none wrong. And he has the pace to do it. So I think that if anyone's in a situation where they need to score as many points as Alireza does in this situation, you want to have that risky style that he does, where he has the speed. He can strike out 3 times, but hey, when it's do or die like this and you just need those points, I think you put more confidence in Alireza to score that than Christopher, just based on their styles and how they approach Puzzle Rush, in my opinion.
Yep. And well, for Firouzja, you also have to, approach the internet, because the browser, you don't want to accidentally close that out or, have it freeze.
He's got to have backup tabs, loaded in he better log into his account 5 times or something.
Have your phone ready too, just in case you need to solve on your phone. But here we go. We have liftoff in the final round of this puzzle battle. It's been an entertaining one, and we're off. I think if I'm Firouzja, I just go all in, because you need a 7-point advantage in this last frame. And the only way to do that is if you score something like 49 and Christopher Yu scores 42. And we've seen Alireza have a high 40s performance in some of the qualifying rounds, but he needs it right now.
Yep, and the typical lead early on for Firouzja, we've seen it, I want to say almost in every match. This has been consistent, but nothing to worry about according to Christopher Yu's game plan or his style, because he does make up that time later. But this is just basically how quickly can Firouzja solve these, and I agree with you. He needs to go all in, risk everything, maybe take some potential early strikes, and probably in a lot of these he's just gonna have to trust himself, Robert. He's gonna have to trust those instincts and maybe not do the full calculations. Yeah,
it's true. And we've seen Hans Niemann do that, and Hans Niemann had scored some like 20s, right? He hit some total duds, but on the other side, on the flip hand side, I'm mixing up my idioms here, but you know what I mean. But he was able to score, 50s and things like that. So Alireza out to a 4 puzzle lead right now. That's huge.
Big. He was on basically 25 puzzles at 2 minutes. So he was on that very good pace. In the final round for Firouzja, when he needs it, this is like so far his fastest run and his most flawless run, apart from some of the earlier, I think he did once or twice 43, 44 with nothing wrong, but this is great for him so far.
It is, and now it's only a 2 puzzle gap, so Christopher Yu catching up here. That's bad news for Firouzja. Now it's really 1.5. It's a Cambridge Springs opening. Oh, it took on G5. Oh no, he gave up his queen. Didn't mean to do that.
Man, you have to just take the knight first with the bishop, then trade the queens, then take the bishop there.
Yep.
There we go. And Chris gets that one. They both have 1 wrong. 45 seconds though. Oh, 2 wrong. Firouzja, this is really, really tough here. Chris just has to stay close. But he got this. Did he get the same one wrong? No, he did. He got the same one wrong. Wow.
All right. So it's 40-38. He needs Christopher Yu to get one wrong immediately. That's the only chance he has, I feel like.
And Chris is feeling the pressure too. If he gets one wrong, he got it wrong.
Oh my gosh. So it's 4. He's up 4.
If he gets 3, he wins.
He ties it. Oh my gosh. 2 more. 2 more into the tie.
Oh my goodness.
Can he do this? It's down to the wire. What is this puzzle? I don't even know.
Oh my goodness.
What is it? This is so hard.
I don't know.
No, he's 1 off. He's 1 off, and the battle is over, and it's a win for Christopher Yu by 1 puzzle. And he had a really tough one there at the end. So,
and Chris is so happy. Do you see him on the screen? He just did a little 13-year-old fist pump and left the cam. He's jumping on the bed.
He needs to get out of here. He's like, no, they can't see me be this happy. I'm a calm, cool, collected, strong international master. And this, I feel really bad, because this is the toughest position you could get. Because Aman.
Oh my God.
So I now seen the solution. So
me too. I'm biased as well now.
Okay, so this is so hard, and
so hard.
And the only reason you can solve this is if you do this. You say, how many squares does this king have? The answer is 0. 0 safe squares. This rook on e8, the best it can do is move away, but that doesn't get rid of white's threats. So black doesn't really have a next move, although it looks like, well, black's up some material, a d4, an a4, an a3 type of thing might be in the cards. So the answer is to keep the pressure and add a new threat by playing pawn to f4.
Oh man.
And after h5, you play pawn to f5, and your threat is simple: pawn to f6, rook to g7, checkmate. I mean, this is just absurd.
What a time to get a puzzle like that. I mean, there's not many where you can just you sit there on a paralyzing position, just push a pawn and then checkmate. That and he played knight takes e8 because he's panicking. Time was going down. I don't know if he knew exactly, but I think he was aware of the difference, and he can see his opponent's score. So he saw strikeout in 38. He knew he was on 44. He knew it was down to that puzzle and the next puzzle. And oh my goodness, he had a chance to win it, Robert, not even just tie it.
Oh my gosh. But this seriously is such a hard puzzle because black is frozen. And if black had one more move, and that's why the puzzle gives h5, if you can play rook h6, all of a sudden you're attacking this knight on d6, removing the defender from the rook on f7. But after f5, rook h6, you have f6, cutting off the rook's attack of the knight, threatening a rook g7 check. You probably also have, I don't know what else is good here, but something.
I don't know if you're reading. Alireza is very tilted, very not happy with the timing of that puzzle. That is a really hard puzzle at that time.
You want to see something ridiculous, Aman? Even better than pawn f6 here, because I made the move and the engine bar went down. The best move here, you're not going to believe this, is rook to f6.
No, I'm getting out of here. I'm getting out of here.
Like, what is rook to f6? Because I give you a free rook, so I can take your rook on e8 with a threat on your rook on f6. And if you take my pawn, I have knight f6 check, and I get a queen. I mean,
I'm done.
Yeah, I'm out. I mean, this is ridiculous. I'm over this puzzle battle. Congratulations to Christopher Yu. Up next is the Speed Chess Championship matchup between Hikaru Nakamura and Jan Nepomniachtchi. That is going to get underway in just a bit after we finish off this content here. But we have to remind everybody, after that matchup between Nakamura and Nepomniachtchi is Dimitrios Lidopoulos playing against Maxime Vachier-Lagrave in the final quarterfinal of the Puzzle Battle World Championship. We have the bracket here in full. Christopher Yu makes his way to the semis playing against Ray Robson, Spicy Caterpillar. I think he's a little bit too spicy for Christopher Yu. But on the other side of the bracket, Hans Niemann awaits the winner of Jimis 9-8 and Leon Beast.
Man, it's been a pleasure, Robert. I am so happy that I got to commentate this match. I knew it was going to be the closest, but there is nothing closer than this. This is literally as close as it could get down to the last puzzle of the entire competition.
Yeah, we've had a phenomenal showing thus far in the Puzzle Battle World Championship. We saw Sam Sevian qualify for the quarters at the last possible second, triumphantly raising his hands. We've just seen Christopher Yu breathe a huge sigh of relief, pump his fist, say, you know what? I'm in it for another round. I may face Spicy, but it's not. I've had tougher challenges before. But okay, we're done for the Puzzle Battle World Championship for now. Next up is the Speed Chess Championship match. We need to get Danny Wrench in here to do commentary alongside me and Aman. I'm so glad you'll be back with me later today to cover that final quarterfinal matchup.
Yeah, really excited. It's been a blast. I don't think the fans here could have asked for anything more out of today's puzzle battle, and really excited to watch Naka against Nepomniachtchi. Naka fresh off a puzzle battle loss, so can he bring it back in the Speed Chess Championship? I can't wait to see.
Well, we'll be here soon with all the action. Everybody stay where you are. We will be back shortly with the SEC coming up next.